Hey, what's up guys? It's your boy Patience and I decided to come at you guys with a little new one. So in this one I wanted to talk a little bit more about Star Citizen and some of the things that I've noticed that have been working well, some of the things that have not been working well. Obviously this one is the Alpha. This is one of the starter ships. One of the ships that I was actually very most fond of, and it was out on this and the Aurora at the time. And I chose to go with the Aurora simply because the Aurora had the bed. At that time, I don't think the Alpha had the cargo, but it's able to hold cargo now. It's probably able to hold more cargo than the current Aurora that I'm rocking, which is the MR. But I still obviously love my Aurora. There's obviously aspects with, because this is currently patch 4.9, that I have issues with, as there are still a lot of bugs. I've come to find that this is not an FPS patch at all. Trying to use your guns is pathetic, it's hopeless, it's worthless. Twice I've been able to get my P6 that I bought with real loot into the game, and twice I've lost my P6, and I've been taught that to keep my P6, what you have to do is melt it in order to repurchase it, as it were, and that's the best way to get your weapon back into the game. You should not have to do that. That's something that I would have expected back in 2017. Anyway, as you can see, I'm playing around here with my modifiers, my MFDs. But what I do hate is whenever I press the UI, as you can see, I usually like to use the mouse to play with the switches and the dials. It's more immersive, more intuitive. But sometimes I use the UI keys, as these are the short keys, to switch your ship on and to turn on your engines. But whenever I use this method to turn my ship off and then turn my ship back on, my MFD settings have all changed. So my guns will be back to defaults, my engines will be back to default energy output, my shields, everything's changed back to default. That I do not like, so there is no persistence there. As well, something that I must mention, I think I've mentioned it before, is the Aries series. The storage system in the back, it does not work, guys. If you open up your storage system, once you come out of that access point, you can't access it again. In order to access that point, you have to redock your ship and call it back. Obviously, this is quite a tedious method. But taking all that back into consideration, coming back to this situation, the Alpha is a very beautiful ship. It is a starter ship, one that's great to, for any starter to get into the first to purchase, especially if dogfighting is your thing. Like I mentioned, it can do cargo now. It's very smooth, transitions well from first person to third person. Taking that into consideration, I would like more third-person interaction for cinematics. Sometimes when I'm running around ASD or space stations, when I get to the lifts, I'm snapped immediately out of third-person back into first-person in order to interact with a lot of interactables. I don't necessarily like that, guys. I have a good, keen concept of my environment, perception of my environment, and so when I'm clicking on those little tiny dials, I like to just one click in third person mode and have access to communications, interactions, because this is more immersive, not just for me but for my viewers. Taking this into consideration, this is something that I've asked for a while back, and it has gotten better since back then, because I think it was 2.8. And I think this is around the times when Port Olisar was still active, and I always found it frustrating that you'd walk onto the elevator in third person, or the shutter doors, and when you left click, you jump straight back into first person, and then you got to hold F and then do the left click. I would like to be able to hold F in third person and then left click and have the accessibility options without, obviously transitioning back into first person because that's a bit too restrictive for me. As well, what I meant about the FPS was there's many aspects where I try to shoot my primary, which all the guns are primaries, and they jam. They're not firing any ammo, and that's happened quite a few times. Another thing that's an issue is the ASD. I spent about an hour trying to find this particular ASD base or camp because I need to get my shit back because I stored a lot of stuff in there. I have no idea why I'm shuffled around with the ASDs and I can't choose the specific location that I want to get to because that works out so much more for the gamer. You might think. So taking that into consideration, I think that's something that should be looked into, not being shuffled about to different ASD bases or camps, but being able to choose the location that you are familiar with. That way, if you do have any items left in that region or that zone, you can just easily get back there. And if that's an issue, then at least leaving gamers with, I guess we call them, navigation points, as it were. So you can easily navigate back to where you once were for namesake. So these are certain things that I think should be taken into consideration. There's also a little glitch here where as I come walking up, obviously you can see we get a lot of the text details from outside or shaded details from outside glitching in into the hangar, which is not great. I've seen that not just here, I believe it was at the Wicklow station as well. So I think that's something that needs to be looked into, guys. Another thing is a lot of my weapons. This is in the patch 4.9. They also vanish from me. So whenever I die or I load out of the game quite abruptly, once I reboot back in, my weapons might be gone. So this as well is not cool. I don't know why when we die we lose all of our goodies, but we still have our guns, our bags, and our armies. To me, that doesn't make sense. So what I think would probably be a good notion would be hastily rushing to implement a notion that once you pass away, your gear is insured. This way we take a little bit of our fees to pay for our lost goods, so they're not lost. We can just go to an accessible point and retrieve our goods. This is a lot more time efficient, and it's also very user friendly. I tend to find that I can end up spending well over 100 G's due to having to repurchase a lot of my guns and ammo back because I like to carry a little bit in excess. When I go down, I might lose quite a bit of ammo, guys, and that's never too good. And then obviously having to go running all the way back into the center of the planet in order to repurchase your armor, your gear, because that's very, again, time effective, time costly. I do like the fact that at the entrance of ArtCorp Memorial, they do now have shopping stalls, which I thought was pretty darn neat. And they are actually selling quite relevant gear. You have your food and your drinks, you have the batteries for your ships or your fuel cells. You also have medical pens, which I thought was bloody fantastic. But what would be awesome, or more awesome, would be having guns and ammo, and maybe even an armor store, so you don't have to go running back into the center of the world, and having to use the train systems or the transport systems just to travel around the world, because that can be very time costly effective. It would be great if we could purchase things from our hangar storage kiosk, because in real life we know that it's very easy for us in the modern day and age to purchase things from our bedrooms and have things sent out to us in a jiffy. So having this kind of technology 900 years in the future, I think would be something like ingenuity kept alive within its own right, as it were. Taking that into consideration, I think another thing that would be great, or a great addition to traveling around the verse, would be when we want to jump and ping to things, we can easily switch on with our helmets. Not necessarily having to go into jump mode in order to see where it is that we want to go, and obviously wherever it is that we're trying to jump to, we can adjust the size of the letters to the world, because sometimes it might be a bit too small to read, guys. Taking that into consideration, I've noticed that when I go into the star map, I'm trying to zoom into a location that I want to get to. The reason why I'm zooming in is because I'm trying to see what it is, the name of the location I'm trying to get to. When I zoom in, the letters also get smaller, like as if it's running away from me. So I find myself trying to, squish my face up against my own screen, like squinting my eyes, but, it doesn't get any better for me. So the zoom feature in the star map does not make any sense at the moment. So as you zoom in, either the letters stay the same size or they can grow larger. Obviously, having options to how your user interface works is always the best way to go for any gamer, for anyone interacting with the user interface. Also, the loadout system, so when you're customizing your character, is not bad, guys. But it's far from great. How it was before was pretty darn neat because it was quick. But how it is now is a step in the right direction to realism. But unfortunately, it falls a little bit too short because there's too much fiddling. You got to click on that little kind of pinpoint marker in order to access the bad guy's gear, etc., etc., etc. We don't necessarily need that kind of level of detail. If you go into someone's pocket in the real life or in the real world, you don't need to kind of push or pinpoint a button. You can just access them, which is very similar to how it was before. But how it was before, you kind of want to have how it is now, which is you can access their trousers, their core, their helmet. So both ways have their advantages and disadvantages, but both ways are still quite a far ways away from what it's supposed to be, unfortunately. But the attempt is very darn good. I think another thing that needs to be looked into is the character customization. Obviously, I think this is going to be broadened out and expanded more in the future, but it has been a very long time. But what do I mean by this? What I mean is, obviously we want to see more hair, guys. We're only seeing, I'll say, hair that only suits a certain race and culture, as it were. Some of the hairstyles are a bit too funky and wild, which is very abnormal for certain other cultures. So I'm kind of broadening out the spectrum of hair design, especially when considering Afro-American, African Americans, and the dark skins alike, because black people can have very thick hair, and taking that into consideration, that makes their hair a lot more stiffer than usual. So you might have more braids, afros, and between the two, you're going to have many styles and hairstyles that you can get, which is pretty darn fun to play with in certain aspects and cases. Also a lot of facial hairs, a lot of eyebrow customizations. These things need to be looked into a little bit more. Things that need to be added obviously is height, weight, build, etc. Obviously wearing heavy armor is something that needs to be looked into, so weight, build, how we exercise in the burst, because wearing heavy armor obviously is going to take a lot out of you, because when it's reinforced with the materials that it's reinforced with, these things do weigh quite a bit, guys. And then when you're carrying a heavy blooming gun to go with it, and you're loading yourself with all this gigantic ammo that you've got to feed into your bag, you're going to be weighed down quite a notch, guys, and you're not going to be able to run around and jump about like you was Spider-Man. Taking that into consideration, how we address customizing our characters is very important. The way how it is now, I have not necessarily seen in any other game prior, but I think the best way to do it, having the sliders are relatively good. Keeping the aspect is not a bad idea, but you have games like Sims, and you have games that are similar to Sims, where you can actually adjust how deep the eyes go into the head, how far, like Mass Effect, I guess, and how far the eyes protrude out from the head, your nose, how far you want your nose. You might have your nose slightly tweaked from one side to another. One side is risen up higher than the other side. Your mouth might not be so perpendicular from each ridge or each corner. So, one side is raised slightly higher than the other side, etc., etc., etc. Chin depth. Once you kind of refine how that bit works, it will be a lot easier to create a character, and a lot quicker in order to create a character that resembles the features that your target audience is trying to go for. It will be executed a lot easier. So that's something that needs to be looked into. A lot more realism. I've noticed that a lot of bags don't have bag straps, and I haven't seen any magnets. They just look like they stick to us. There's no slings, so guns as well seem as if they stick to us. It's been a while. I think it was 4.0 was supposed to have had gear and clothing and gear. It's now 4.9, coming into 4.10. Still ain't seen any of that. And obviously we still got two systems to look out for, which is what I'm really looking forward to, which is 1.0, which was said to come after 4.0, if I'm not mistaken. We're now at 4.10, guys. So taking that into consideration, another thing I've noticed is when I'm flying with my spaceship out in space, so I'm not in the planet and I'm not on the moon, but I'm in space, my character kind of fades out if I'm moving too fast, especially in my Aurora, and it happened a little bit in the Alpha, which to me just does not make sense, because there's no gravity, there's no G's fighting against me, so he should have no reason to knock out. Taking this into consideration, having power or control over a gravity generator would be great, because then all I'd have to do is turn off my gravity, and I'm fighting at less gravity. Turn off my gravity generator, and whether I'm in a planet or in space, I'll be fighting against less gravity. Especially if I'm in space, there will be no gravity to fight against at all, which I think would be the best way to go about dogfighting or trying to race in space. You turn down your gravity dials, and you turn it back up efficiently and effectively when and if needed. So these were things that I've noticed. It makes no sense flying at high speeds into space or in space, and then your character feels like he's going to faint or whatever, because it just does not make sense. This bit here, which is beneath this cloud in Arkham, just beside Memorial, there's a beautiful city under here, and there's nothing going on. What I would like to see would be players being able to come here and do like drug busts and fight terrorists and also probably go against yeah, maybe a little bit of the nine tails, just ensuring that they're not trying to, corrupt anything. And protesters, there's certain things that could, so, we're kind of going door to door and just ensuring that there's no criminals lurking behind any of these nice tower blocks. Now, I'm not sure there's an uncountable amount of towers and buildings here. And similar to the ASD Horizon, we can see that it looks like a managed location down there. It looks very civilized, so obviously whatever bad faction would be down there would be kind of like hidden, trying to blend in with the good guys. Similar to drug busts, you go and door to door and you ensure that there's no one's holding weapons, no one's trying to do shootouts, and sometimes it might be a lockdown situation, so you kind of just circled out a huge area, and it takes weeks, days, maybe even months to completely eradicate the bad guys. So that's something that I would like to see here. Most importantly, flying under this rain cloud, a lot more thunder and lightning. The sounds of thunder and lightning would be awesome. Flashes, especially when flying through the cloud, just to make it just that little bit more immersive and fun, especially for viewers when watching. And yeah, I think that is about it for this particular patch or this particular upload that I can think of at this moment in time. But taking all of that into consideration, the VTOLs at the moment, they have no real use. I can't wait for those to start meaning something. I think that's very important. And also weight. The weight of your ships, especially when hauling cargo, when going into a world that has stronger gravity. Like for instance, I used my Ares and it took me quite a while to fly out of Crusader without jumping. I realized that the atmosphere was about 500 kilometers deep, which is just amazing. It took me ages to fly out the damn thing. It felt as real as I would expect it to feel if I was trying to leave Earth. My point being is, obviously because that world is so huge, it looks like a Jupiter kind of thing. We must remember that mass is something to be taken into consideration. Mass equates, I think mass can help guide you to the notion of how much gravity is acquired. The bigger a thing gets, the more gravity it attains, if I'm not mistaken. So that's something to be looked into, if I'm not mistaken. And so weight is something to be taken into consideration, especially when hauling your cargo. Each cargo is going to have different weight from other cargoes, you might think. Like water, is it heavier than oil? And then you got mercury, and then you got gases. You have ice. Is ice heavier than water? And then obviously we got metals, we got wood, plastics, etc., etc., etc. guys think. And also lead. Lead is a commodity that's used quite frequently, especially in modern day, in our roofs, atop our homes. So don't we use lead anymore in the future? So these things would be items that I would like to see. Another thing that I would love to see would be rubbish clearing, some dumper trucks. I recently bought the MPUB, the tractor of course, which it has two unnecessary variants that do the exact same darn thing if you ask me. But if it was like a dumper truck, that would have been awesome as well. So I'd like to see some dumper trucks because we got waste and trash in the game. So dealing with this, I mean, look at this. This is a city-wide world, or a city-world wide, or this is a worldwide city. So there's bound to be a lot of trash. Obviously, this world does not really make sense because there's no water, but there's clouds, etc., etc., etc. But taking that into consideration, being able to, get into the trash side of business, I think would be pretty darn awesome. And at the moment, it will obviously be very, very fiscally advantageous for any player or gamer because no one's into that market at this moment. Taking that into consideration, different weight, different cargo, etc. VTOLs, as you can see, I've got my VTOLs open. They don't help smoothing out my flight experience. They don't help keep me afloat if I'm coming down too fast. They don't help in any way, shape possible. So these are things I would like to see adjusted. I was told, or we were told, that content was no longer going to be the focus. It was going to be focused on bug fixing and all that stuff. I don't feel like they've stuck to the plan with that one. CIG has kind of broken the rules, broken the bank there, and they've gone back to content. So I think they're kind of content hungry. And I think this is something that we need to kind of leash ourselves with a little bit and focus on the things that matter, that truly do matter most, in order to make the game a little bit more fleshed out and seem a little bit more to the point. Physics and stuff are very important, guys. It's why we go out and spend thousands on our devices, so that we can have a real experience. If you don't want a real experience, then typically you would likely go out and buy a PS5, an Xbox Series, or maybe even a Nintendo, which is very fantasy-like in consideration or in comparison to the real world. Anyway, guys, it's your boy Patience. I hope you like what you be seasoning hers, and if you did, you leave those thumbs and those likes and those comments down below. And if you have any queries, guys, over and out.